theme given, and since people have already walked out for lunch, we will try to keep it short and sweet. So I will try to give maximum time for the speakers to talk their, share their thoughts. But to give it a perspective, I have framed the questions so that they can give their thoughts. So I'll start with Dhruv. Dhruv bhai. Years ago, I remember that when I was in UTI, this is about 20 years back, UTI had about over 90,000 agents, as we used to call them. And today we have about 16,000 ARN holders, as per AMFI data, out of which about 55,000 are IFAs, individuals. And if you take the active distributors, it could be about 1/3 of that. In fact, AMFI data shows that in the last 2 years, that is from 2013 to 2015, about 20,000 ARN holders have not renewed their ARN. And out of that, more than 10,000 are KYD compliant. So there seems to be a shrinking, the people are going out. But on the other hand, I find an interesting phenomena. There's an increasing number of corporate executives who are, quitting their very nice, good jobs in AMCs and banks and opting for a full-time career in the mutual fund industry. My friend here is an example of that. Gajendra Kothari was a successful executive in UTI, and a lot of people who have left their careers in the mutual fund industry or the banking careers and have opted for a full-time IFA career. Yourself is leading example of a successful IFA. So there seems to be believers versus non-believers, if I may say so, because of the diminishing numbers. So what will, in your opinion, needs to be done to make these non-believers into believers as a way forward for the IFAs?
I think the first, what you said, fundamentally, whether you believe in the profession, fundamentally, whether you believe there is a service that you provide to the customer, and by providing good service, there is a good remuneration for you. So I strongly believe that we are in a unique profession, and as an IFA, we have a tremendous ability to do good for our clients. And by doing good, I mean by providing them financial stability and independence. You provide financial stability and independence to a family, and that can, continue for generations. So I think there is an intrinsically a deep value that you can provide. But the belief, what you said, it is, the believers and the non-believers. So over the last 15-20 years, what you say from the transition from the UTI period, I think what has happened is that there is a need to have this belief in the long-term opportunity. And the long term is always, coupled with short-term challenges and problems. And I think in the last 10 years, we've also seen a lot of regulatory changes which have, impacted the revenue models. So I think short-term challenges impact one's thinking, and if you are not long-term, if you don't have a long-term belief, it shakes up people. The second, I think, is also that as the markets have evolved, I think the need for a greater amount of upskillment. You need to upskill yourself over time. You need to increase your knowledge. You need to increase your knowledge about markets, about your products, your profession, and therefore your ability to deal with clients. So, if you want to increase the quality of your offering, I think you also want a clarity on the quality of the remuneration that you will make. So if people are not sure that there is, money to be made, so it's very simple. I believe that, honeybees go where there is honey. So people will come into this profession if they believe that there is a revenue model. So like when I changed my career, means being in a corporate business, in a company, working for a company, and I changed in 2003. Obviously I changed because I thought the opportunity to make money as a financial advisor is much more, tremendous, maybe manifold than what I was doing in job. I didn't know what numbers I would make, but there was a belief not only to make money, but there was a belief that you could provide this service to the clients, and ultimately it is your belief that if you provide service somewhere, if you do good for your clients, in the end you will do good for yourself. So I think this message that there is a tremendous ability to do good for the clients, and in doing that good, it is that you make money. So somewhere I think that communication or that message is not going, and I think there is a need for a lot of the existing, so like say we in FIFA, our members, we have a strong belief that existing successful advisors should take up the role of reaching out to others in the industry. And when you see role models, that is what attracts people. Like when you see Sachin Tendulkar playing, when you see Dhoni playing, you want to be a cricketer. So I think if successful advisors and successful people are showcased by the industry, it will attract more people into the profession.
Thank you, Dhrubai. Gajendra, I will ask you because since I was an example, last year the industry paid out more than 5,800 crores of commission, and out of which the top 470 distributors who met SEBI criteria, they earned more than 4,700 crores. This comprises 81% of the total industry payout. The remaining 19% of the total commission payout was earned, that's about 1,100 crores, was spread between 37,500 distributors. So concentration is at the top, and AMFI data shows that the distributors who have earned more than 10 lakhs, because that's the threshold, are just less than 4,500. So there seems to be so much of concentration at the top and at the bottom. So basically, again, it must, seems to be the serious players and people who are doing just as a supplementary income. Now you are an example, and a shining example at that, who has given up such a good career in UTI. He was in London office of UTI. He had such a fantastic career in the AMC industry, but you are chosen to come into this as a full time, and you are such a successful, and you could be a role model for many of the IFAs like Dhrubai here is. So what is your view as a way forward for these less serious distributors to become more serious?
Okay, I think very important point. Just to give you a contrast, I think worldwide it's the same. We just look at Nifty 50 companies in the Sensex. Even again, top 20% make up the 80% of the market capitalization. The rest 80, are just the long tail actually.
Everywhere we have Pareto's principle in play.
Yeah. So that will happen all over the place. So I always believe that in this business we'll always make money. I know for sure that if I do well for my customers, money will never be an issue. We learn as much as we want, So this was more of a passion to me. I mean, when I left, I was in London and doing well and kind of thing. I could have made great amount of money there, but you have to believe what you like actually. You have to have your passion. Many times these days I come home at 1 o'clock at night.
Wow.
My wife is very angry with me, but this is what I love actually. Being with the clients, being with the investors, and helping them solve the problem actually. So the top 20% of the people who are successful, I think they are putting the sweat and hard work and things into there. The rest 80%, you said why many people are just taking this as a fringe option, I think the problem is that we most of the IFAs are not really taking this as a profession, passion. They're just doing for the bread and butter actually.
Right.
The moment they put their passion into it, and I ask many people, how many of you first of all you believe in investing in mutual funds? If you could have had a raise of hands, you will not find many of their personal investments is going into this wonderful vehicle. Then how can we have the conviction to explain our clients that this is a product which has given 20% CAGR and I've earned, and I'm now helping you to earn this. So that conviction has to come.
You're absolutely right, Gajendra, because it's a personal thing. Even I had experienced. My sisters, they're all working in banks, And in the banks, if you're an employee, you get 1% more. Instead of telling these to put entire, and she retired, entire amount used to be in bank FDs, completely tax inefficient, and so much of tax even after. And so I had to convince and make them understand, about how the mutual fund is more tax efficient and slowly all the money is coming. So I think it's very important about being passionate. And I think you hit the nail at the right place about being passionate about one's profession. And unless you have conviction, I think, no profession you can be successful. And that leads me, Gaurav, to a question that, I wanted to ask you. Yesterday, Leo mentioned, in his message to the IFS, three things. One is to build capabilities, to build trust, very important, and to provide quality service. Capability, I think one can do a lot of things, and I think AMCs are supporting people by a lot of trainings, etc. Offering quality services, again, it comes with experience. But in building trust is a very important, and building confidence and winning over the confidence of the investors is a big challenge. And even Santosh Nair mentioned in his presentation, he stressed the need for providing what he called is customized experience to investors. We had read about going beyond the normal customer expectation, etc., etc. Now, going forward, the competition is going to be very intense, and new challenges are going to come up. Now, no matter how much of digital technology, etc., is going to come, that compassion and your brand imaging and winning over, customers' confidence, like Mohanty mentioned in his talk, there is so much that the technology can do, but the trust part, personal touch, has to come from you alone. So, you are a champion and an expert in brand building. You have brought a new perspective, UTI brand imaging with Swatantara, so many. So, how will you, what will you advise our IFAs as a way forward to enhance their brand value for their services in a new challenging environment, particularly in this technologically savvy world that we're going to encounter in future?
Thanks, Kini. First, I think it's not hubris, so I would like to state as a disclaimer up front, I am a theoretician. The practitioners are sitting right in front, so I can at best synthesize it from an outside perspective and leave for them to take what they think is valuable in this. So what is not going to change is essentially in our business is the trust building aspect which is required. In financial services world over, there's a saying that people buy into people and then brands, and the last is the products. Even after 100 years of selling, complicated financial instruments in mature markets like US or Europe, the direct part of the business which appeals to the do-it-yourself consumers is still less than 18 odd percent. So, the first point right up front is that we need not fear some of these discussions become irrelevant and these debates really do not matter. And therefore it leads to the next point, which is the need for intermediation therefore will remain. There is enough data, evidence, research, again, across markets, across market cycles. People will slog their butt off to earn the money they have, but they are fearful of the decision around their money. They fear taking decisions around their money. The onus of taking that decision weighs like a heavy burden. So they are happier to, for want of a better word, to have a neck to catch, which is the role of financial advisors, to help them manage this downside or risk or the fear which they have. The third piece is that the choices will remain, going forward. They'll in fact multiply. I'll probably, it's very difficult to predict the future for way forward, but some of the trends which are really in the face, technology, I think there's enough debate, enough evidence by the experts within the category who have shown that technology is here to stay. It will disrupt businesses in many ways, and we need to be aware of it. Just as a small example, I think we all think that competition is the next person. There are 46 AMCs who think they are competition for each other. In China, an e-commerce player has ended up becoming one of the largest asset managers called Alibaba. And so technology does that in marketplaces. It disrupts on how we think and how we behave. The other piece is, I think we have to realize when we are talking to consumers is the whole context of money. And movies reflect this best in our society. when you look at the context of money, there was a time, at least when we were growing up, it was more in an era of scarcity, that money was important to survive, right? अपने पाँव चादर के हिसाब से फैलाइए. Then there came a time when all the people who had money were evil. They were the smugglers or the baddies in the film. And now, if you see the movies, they reflect our current thinking on money, but money is good. You know, it's not bad. It is not shameful to be talking about money. So that is one context. The other is the whole, I think, context, like I said, relatively, you know, I'm in my 40s now, so we've grown in an era of scarcity. But my kid is growing up in an era of abundance. So to be giving the same talk or notion of, you know, what does money mean to us will not relate to them. So we have to evolve a new consumer context and a language which appeals to them, and, you know, it remains relevant. The other thing which is happening is the advent of nuclear families and our highly stressful lifestyles. Now what nuclear families is doing is it will increase the need for financial intermediation and the need for advice, because the joint family system which existed in India traditionally